I'm Ken Rockwell. Here's a quick review of the Nikon FM 35mm fully professional camera, which came out in 1977 and was made until about 1982. This is an ultra classic camera. Nikon's been duplicating the look of this, for instance, in their latest, the ZF digital full frame. By fully professional, it's all metal. It's designed to work under all conditions. This sample of camera was given to me by a friend who found it in the street without a lens, and guess what? It still works flawlessly. This camera was used as a backup by many pros back in its era. We would take our f2.AS for our serious stuff, and we carry this just in case, because we knew no matter what happened, this camera would always go. Also in the days of the f3, which is electronic. If the f3 crapped out on us, which admittedly they never did, we discovered, but this camera always worked because it has a mechanical shutter. It's super easy to use. This turns on the meter. The meter is run by two S76 or A76 cells popped into there, which honestly can run for years before you need to replace them because they turn off every time you do that. Shutter speeds of every speed you could ever want. If you want longer than a second, you go to bulb. You can see everything through the finder. You can see the shutter speed in the finder. You can see the apertures in the finder. It covers the entire ASA range of films that were never even made. It covers such a wide range. It can use traditional AIS lenses, which have this little coupling ridge here, which couples to that. And unlike that awful FDZ for their mirrorless cameras, you'll see that as you adjust this, it's coupling the f-stop into the camera, all while the diaphragm is completely open, so you always have full aperture focusing, and the diaphragm will stop down for an instant just as you press the shutter. So let's see if I can show this here on film. See? It closes down to f22, and it opens up the instant the shutter opens, so you can focus at full aperture all the time. It has a traditional ground glass, just plain old ground glass screen, which means if you're shooting high-speed lenses, it's f2 and faster, like the f1.2 knocked lens, f1.4 lenses, f2 lenses, you get a much better indication of how far out of focus it is. The modern screens, which are called bright screens, don't show how far out of focus the faster lenses are, because this is complex, but they really use a central core of the lens and make it look brighter. This will look dimmer with slow lenses, but with really fast lenses, it will look bright and you'll get better focusing. Ideally, I prefer the more modern screens, but to each their own. You cannot change the screen on this camera. You're stuck with it the way it is. It has a hot shoe. Flash sync is a nice fast 125th. It has a self-timer that works great. The self-timer actually flips the mirror up for you at the very beginning of the self-timer interval, so you don't even have to look for a mirror lockup. It's got depth of field preview, full time, always active. That's why everybody loved these cameras. They just went. You didn't have to fuss with function menus or anything else. It just went. To load your film, you have an interlock here. Pull that up until you do that. I have a full user's guide here on YouTube too, as well as at kenrockwell.com. It takes two S76 or A76 cells as a battery. And honestly, these things last for years, maybe even a decade or more, because it shuts off completely when you push this forward. The meter turns on when you do that. That's what the red dot means. You can do multiple exposures. To do multiple exposure, that's one exposure. Pull this towards the prism, then do that. That is if you're doing a multiple exposure, don't want the film to advance, and if the film advances, there's more going on. Of course, you can always look at this. When you load your film, make sure that as you wind this turns. That means your film is advancing properly. But hey, look at that in my user's guide video. Thanks for watching. Ken Rockwell here at kenrockwell.com and kenrockwell.tv.